Greetings everybody, this is Serpentine451 and welcome back to another episode of Weeb Warriors. And we got the full cast here because one of our individuals has decided to return from his vacation, from his cruise. We're welcoming back Jay. How you doing tonight, Jay?
What's up, guys? How's it going? I'm good.
And joining me as always is Jordan. How you doing tonight, Jordan?
Hanging in there, Tony.
Alright, gentlemen, as per usual, we are going to be continuing with our reviews this week. And since Jay had to play a game of catch-up here, give us your thoughts on the episodes before we actually get to the reviews for this week.
Alright, so, I guess I'll just kind of rapid fire through them. The Firefighter Games episode of Fire Force is really cool. I like the introduction to Joker. He seems like a really cool villain. This is probably the only one besides Vinland Saga where I haven't read the source material, so like I am strictly anime only, so it's pretty fun seeing how that goes. I'm also very interested in the chick from the first company with the Neko powers.
I don't understand why, but okay.
I don't know. She seems cool. Also, I just like how she ends up being the unintentional victim for both Shinra and Arthur. I thought that was some pretty good comedy there. There's definitely something shady going on. Like, the captain of the first was definitely hiding something. Like, I mean, granted, he gives a very valid excuse. Like, you know, that happened 12 years ago, and I fight hundreds of fires a year minimum. Like, you actually think I'm gonna remember that?
Yeah, but how many of them result in the death of an entire family and an 8 or 10-year-old kid left standing in the ashes of his home crying?
Yeah, and also, how many are the result of a third-generation pyrokinetic power? Allegedly.
Yeah, I call bullshit.
Yeah.
Massive bullshit.
There's definitely something up with that. Well, what else is there? Don Machi, it was just kind of the prep for the war game. So, like, not too much to really talk about there. You know, a lot of, like, we got to see the Soma Familia and, like, understand kind of what that's like, for Lily. So a little bit more development for her. And we got to see kind of the seeds of Hestia's plan to help Belle win the war game. So,
well, I mean, 3 people just defected from the Familias.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, hey, I don't blame them. Hestia is Bestia. And they got the good ones. Plus Ryu. I think eventually Ryu is gonna just join the Hestia Familia because they can't just keep randomly pulling Ryu from her job. Like, hey Ryu, you're pretty powerful.
Yet again, that's exactly what they're gonna do. I don't think she's gonna be joining up the Familia anytime soon.
You don't think so? I'd like that.
I'm not up to date on the manga, so I might just be already. I might already be talking myself into a hole here.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm just kind of speculating because she is like crazy OP. But I like the people we chose because I mean you expected Welf and Lily, but I didn't expect Makoto to show up.
Why didn't you expect? Oh, you mean from when she made her initial appearance to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the way that the second season opened up sort of felt like Makoto's interaction with them was kind of forced. Like, how powerful do you really need to be? But then, you know, it was just a sort of natural extension of that.
Well, actually, there's something funny about that. There was an OVA that basically the gang, including the Takemikazuchi Familia, finding a hot spring in the floor that they were trapped in during the finale of season 1.
Oh,
and they really connected there. So, it may seem forced to those who didn't see the OVA. That makes perfect sense, but since I did see the OVA, but it was a long time ago.
I did watch the OVA, the hot spring episode.
Yes.
Where she was, like, super obsessed with the hot spring.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of explains their relationship at this point.
I mean, I hear you, and I have to, at a certain point, well, to a certain extent, every interaction in a series is
Motherfucker!
quote unquote forced because it's scripted in the literal. But beyond that, it's just sort of I guess it's a very self-serving explanation, is what I'm trying to say.
I guess so, but Alec, what the hell are you doing here?
Whatever I want, nigga. Yeah,
Motherfucker!
you definitely better cut that out. Just saying.
Motherfucker! We're in the middle of recording an episode of the podcast we usually do every week, and you decided to come barging in here.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought y'all were just talking in chat. My bad.
No, motherfucker.
Y'all should post in the chat on that one. I didn't know.
We posted the anime chat for that. I mean,
Yep.
I guess you just don't check that one, but
I probably have that one muted. I usually mute the ones that I don't listen to because if y'all post them a lot of times, they'll wake me up in the middle of the night and then I get irritated.
nah.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, that one's muted. My bad.
it's all cool, man.
It's all good.
It's at
I'll
least
stay
we got
quiet, I'll try
that
not to
misunderstanding cleared up. It's all good.
But yeah, but back to Danmachi though. Her gravity magic is super OP.
Well, we'll talk about that when we actually get to the episode for review.
Yeah, but I just want to quickly mention that because I mean we saw it in the fight in the first season. I was really looking forward to seeing more of it. Hopefully, that gets improved. For some reason, I was thinking that was like a Take Familia exclusive thing. I was thinking it operated like an MMO where you get certain bonuses because you partner with a certain god or whatever. But
I'm sure that the partnership of the god has some influence on the abilities you gain, but it seems to be that each individual adventurer has their powers irrespective of their god, right?
Exactly.
Welf's ability to do magic forging is entirely tied to him and not his relationship to Hephaestus.
Okay. Yeah, because I was kind of worried. I was like, wait, if you defect from Hephaestus, does that mean you're not going to make as good quality stuff? He was like, I can forge anywhere. Yeah.
It really just sort of shapes the way that people's initial progression begins, right? Because obviously, random people don't go into the tower and come out with the forge ability, right? I'd be kind of.
And plus, he came from a family line of blacksmiths and whatnot.
Yeah, true. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. But that one guy, the general, he's super nuts. He is
rank level 3 fast pad.
Yeah, he is cartoonishly insane.
Yeah, he's just an overall buffoon and clown.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to get into, since we're already on the subject, let's go ahead and get into episode 4, where it is in fact a war game, and it is the ass whooping.
Mm-hmm.
Yo,
and
that was so hyped. That was the build up was definitely well done because the war game itself was definitely really well executed.
Anyway, continue on with your rapid fire. That's not really a rapid fire.
Well, I'm used to doing full length reviews. My bad. But anyway, Vinland Saga, the fourth episode finally dropped because I was very confused about that one because they dropped the first 3 and then they decided to wait a couple weeks to drop 4. But it was again just kind of the aftermath of Thor's attacking the enemy forces and basically kind of fulfilling that Ned Stark death flag we saw in the first 3 episodes. Yeah, this is where he dies and gets pincushioned because he decides to follow honor, and the other Viking said fuck you. I don't care if you invoked Odin in the name of in Odin's name in this duel. I'm gonna fucking win. I'm using your kid as a shield. I'm gonna use the archers I've been having waiting on the cliffs to fucking skewer you. And this is where Thorfinn's revenge story really begins. So that was really good. This show itself is just really beautiful, how it's made. you can tell it's done by the same studio that did like Attack on Titan and like Ancient Magus Bride, especially Ancient Magus Bride, because you see a lot of like the background detail come to life here, especially.
The impressive boob physics.
Yeah, that too.
I haven't watched a single episode of Vinland Saga yet. I don't know if that makes a resurgence.
No, the impressive boob physics is there. I mean, there's only one female character right now, but there's only like one scene in the most recent episode, but it's there. It's there.
Not by much, but it's there.
But yeah, no, it's really solid. I like it. I can definitely see why a lot of people like compare this to Berserk. It feels a lot like the History Channel show Vikings, if you've ever seen that one. And apparently, according to people from my comments of my individual review, Thorfinn and Thors are actually descendants of Ragnar, so that makes sense. I think that's pretty interesting. And apparently Thorfinn was a real person. Did not know that.
Oh, yeah, it's a manga series detailing the lives of historical Vikings.
Yeah. I realize, like, Leif Erikson is a real person, but do you know how many anime series include Nobunaga in them?
Tons of them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, it's hard to tell whether something's a fantasy that includes historical figures or an actual, like, historical retelling. But this one is an actual, like, retelling with some, dramatized elements. Still really cool. The action sequences are dope. I really like the show. Honestly, for me, this is definitely contender for best show of the season.
And
we'll have to wait it out and see.
I can agree with you there 100%, Jay.
What else? Magical Senpai. Okay, Magical Senpai. This show is just hilarious. Like I said, the appeal of this show is, like, obviously, like, the ecchi elements or whatever, but also, it's got just the right amount of cringe. It's kind of like the same appeal to, like, watching fail videos, because literally all she does is fail, and it's hilarious and adorable just to see her dust herself off and just keep trying. And then, of course, like, I believe the episode that I missed was the one where, like, the Magic Club was on members, so they had to shut down. So, I liked her little costume changes that her sister provided. That was pretty funny. Another question I had, I mean, again, it's anime logic, but, like, when she joined the track team in that episode, how the hell was she able to run that fast with boobs that big?
I don't think they have a relationship to each other. It's like a 1-to-1.
I'm just saying, man, like, her lower back must be in excruciating pain.
No, the bitch explained it herself. She apparently runs like a mad person since she was 5.
Well, yeah, okay. But, there's something there that was not there when you...
Well, of course, when you have honkers the size of your head, you would expect to have massive back pain.
I mean, they're definitely bigger than their head, but that's besides the point. Anyway, moving on. Like I said, I haven't watched For My Daughter or... How is the Mom Isekai show?
That is pure... if you really okay. The best way I can explain it is that it's a show that you can enjoy because you can sort of relate to Masato's, let's call them grievances with how overly affectionate his mother is and how much of a ditzy person she can be.
Is there as strong of an incest vibe as I get from...
No, they make all the fucking incest jokes they want, much to him just being embarrassed. Like, why the fuck are you doing this to me, Mom? Why?
Okay, so there isn't an actual incest vibe going on.
Nah.
I mean, Twitter and the memes have me, led me to believe something else.
But that's just Twitter and memes. Like, okay, for example, the current arc that's going on with, one of their party members, Wise, is similar to Masato and Mamako. She came in to this world with her mother, who became a an enemy to them for this beginning mini arc of sorts, calling herself the Empress of Night, and all she wanted to do was obtain hot dudes. Because all she did in her actual life was basically go to host bars and look at hot dudes, which ended her marriage and her daughter pretty much not really being her biggest fan. And her crazy ass deciding to name her daughter Genya after one of the hosts she favored. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's buffoonery.
I was thinking about checking it out. I'm still on the fence about it, but I'll see.
No, the best way I can describe it, it's basically a show where I can say, oh god damn it, this is what would happen if my mom and I went into a parallel world where she did her ditziness on a constant basis and me just looking embarrassed all the damn time.
Nah, if my mom ended up dragged with me to an isekai world, all they need to do is just like arm her with some like bladed footwear, and I'm gonna just let her work.
Yeah, I think that the series is interesting in that approach because it seems that whatever class your child picks, you also become that class, just the more broken variant.
Oh, okay.
Indeed. Yep. That is true.
Yeah, and I heard that like the reason she could do that is because unlike her son, she actually read the manual and was like, oh well, I can do this.
No,
but
all moms get starting bonuses that are broken as hell. Like one of the supporting characters, Wise, she's a magician, and she's dedicated a lot of time to learning how to use a few magics. But her mom got a starting bonus, which was a spell book that allowed her to use any and all types of magic right out the gate.
Indeed.
Oh,
yep,
that's
it's
crazy.
pretty much the same principle with Masato and Mamako, where
he
has
got the elemental sword and she has 2 elemental swords.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
no,
essential.
It's not even that. Firmament is a decent weapon, right? And it would be appropriate for most heroes to have a solid sword that can release a projectile in blast. But then Mamako has literally 2-hit multi-target attacks.
Indeed.
Oh, dang.
Indeed. So basically,
that is pretty impressive.
the world, the anime explains it itself. It's a video game world that wants to help mothers connect with their children. And
which is interesting that they keep bringing that point up, but yet no one has asked Porter where her family is.
Exactly, and that's the saddest thing. Poor little Porter. She is a part of the party where she basically is nothing more than a walking inventory box. Because her class is
He does have that ability, but if you also pay attention to the fact that she can procure and make magic items.
That is true, because her class is merchant,
broken.
which is a non-combat class.
That is super broken.
Like if I was in this world, I'd sell someone to I'd sell my left leg, have someone like that following me around.
Indeed.
She could probably make me a new leg.
Yep, very true. And
That's
what are your thoughts on Are You Lost, and how heavy are those dumbbells you left, Jay?
Oh, so Are You Lost? Are You Lost? I'm not fully caught up on, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's a pretty simple concept. I like all the like different survivalist things. Like we've said before, I kind of have been on this like weird like I like these weird like semi-educational stuff that's been coming out over the past couple years. It's pretty interesting. And I like the dynamics between the girls so far. As far as dumbbell goes, the one that I missed, it was they finally did a beach episode. I was waiting for this. They did a pool episode, but they finally did a beach episode. That was pretty fun. Poor Sensei ended up having a heat stroke in the sun, and all Hibiki got was a T-shirt or a set of T-shirts. So good for her. I like the cast so far of Dumbbell. This is probably the funniest anime of the season so far. As much as I love Magical Senpai, I think Dumbbell is the one that like consistently gets me to laugh with like the expressions and just some of the jokes and how they do their fan service.
All right. Well, let's actually get the most recent episode of Dumbbell out of the way. So, episode 5. What was it called again? Come on, you lazy bastard. It is, what's your sports day event? So,
it was the sports day episode.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So, essentially, Hibiki saying, starts the episode by saying she hates sports day because, Koyo, Women's Academy is having their sports day. And she ends up...
She always feels embarrassed because she's not good at sports and stuff like that. And of course, because she says that, they're like, well, and she's like, well, I don't have to participate. We have plenty of athletic girls in our class this year. They're not going to make me do it. And that's on cue when they, like, implement the lottery system and Hibiki gets selected for the relay.
Yep.
And she's the anchor. So, like, it's even more important. Also, she's going up against Akemi. So, like, she's got, like, a little bit of a, like, I want to prove to my friend that I can do this type thing. The thing that has me weak, though, was when she's, like, when she's training with Machio, and, like, he's teaching her how to, like, you know, improve the muscles that help her run faster, and then, like, the thing that gets her fired up is that she can get her ass toned. Like, she can get a fuller butt. I'm like, all right. You get it. You know where the money is.
Yeah, I watched this episode a couple of times to just make sure I had everything to memory for the review, and I'm like, this bitch out here trying to get dudes, trying to get a firmer ass.
No, that's her goal, and I respect it. She was like, wait, you're telling me I can get a fatter, firmer ass with this machine? Fuck yeah, let's do it.
And then, of course, she pushes too hard and just is too damn embarrassed at the end, because her shorts rip while she was just going hard.
That was hilarious. Oh my god, in my review I was like, couldn't contain the thick. That's what happened. Too much thick.
And of course,
leave this place.
And of course, Machio, per usual in this show, he decides to just rip his clothing and just flex all damn day, because he gets so into like training.
He was so fucking weird, and I still can't get over the fact that his head is normal. Like, the fact that he has like Incredible Hulk clothes, right? Like, when he puts on his clothes, his body proportions are normal, but then as soon as they rip, he like hulks out. It's crazy.
Yes, exactly, and I think that's the point. And it's
yeah, that never stopped being funny. I don't get it. Like, I thought that would have gotten old, but like, it's still pretty hilarious.
And the best part about this show, apparently, of course, the fan servicey how-to with all the fitness stuff.
Yeah, personally, I like the fact that they're like showing you step by step like a bunch of different home exercises.
Oh yeah, totally. And the bicycle curls, really useful, really fucking useful.
Oh yeah, that's something I do in my spare time, because like a lot of times with me, I'll only just kind of exercise to maintain. I'm not trying to get big or anything. It's just so like I'm able to push myself efficiently and like not be a total slob and be winded after going up a flight of stairs. Although like there was we stayed at an Airbnb like a couple days after the cruise, and that place had like multiple stairs, and I felt like fucking Rocky. Like, I don't know who in my family like lacked the foresight to be like, oh yeah, we have a handicapped child. But that's
like, Jeremy, your family has never treated you like you're handicapped. It's just like, oh, we don't need wheelchair access. You're just like, yeah, I'll just lift my wheelchair off the like, what's the problem? I got it.
I mean, that's true. I mean, that's the whole point. That's the reason I have to exercise because I have to do a lot of this myself.
It's
But
just I'm just throw myself onto the ground, collapse my wheelchair, drag it up a flight of stairs. No problem, guys. Just go on without me.
I'll see you guys in like 30 minutes. Alright, but yeah, no, it was a fun episode. I enjoyed it, and of course, Akemi fucks it up at the end. Or not Akemi, Hibiki fucks it up at the end because she doesn't realize the rules, and she wasn't allowed to pick up the baton when her teammate dropped it. So even though she was like right behind Akemi in the race, she gets disqualified. And I love it. She's just like, Sensei.
All of Class B got disqualified. Her classmates were sad, and Ayako was like, fuck, bitch.
I love it, because she's like, Sensei, we're cool, man. Why couldn't you just look the other way? And she's like, are you kidding me? The other teachers were there. I couldn't do that.
Oh, and also we get a lesson on how to enjoy a sauna. Thank you, Hibiki.
Yep. You know, don't stay in there until you suffer from heat stroke and pass out.
Yep, or you don't believe in the concept of heat stroke. Oh, Satomi. Oh, Satomi.
Poor Satomi Sensei, man. I love it, because she's like, you know, Hibiki is so intimidated. She's like, wow. She's like, unmoving, and it's just like, wait, Sensei? Sensei! Wake up!
Yep.
Yeah,
but the
Oh,
sad
man,
truth is, and you know what? The first time I watched the episode, and it got to the part with the sauna, and they had their little contest, I called it. I called the first person who was going to get out of there, and it was Ayaka, and I was fucking right.
Yeah.
I was
right.
right.
It was definitely Ayaka. Ayaka doesn't seem to have that high of a tolerance. So, when do you think the white-haired girl is going to show up? I want to know what her deal is. Like, she did all the promo art.
And...
But, like...
promo art.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this bitch to show up. It's been really aggravating me.
I want to know what her deal is.
Exactly. But...
Like, we can't make a valid best girl argument for this show until all the wives are present.
Well, I agree with you there, Jay. So, let's actually get to another show we can discuss. You know what? Let's discuss, Are You Lost?
I'll leave that to y'all, because I haven't seen the
Right.
one
So, I mean, the latest episode of Are You Lost, episode 6, Rabbit Tasting, or are we on episode 5, A Strange Turban, so?
Well, we can just talk about both we talked about episode 5 last week, and we're now going to be talking about episode 6, due to the confusion that it brings.
Yep. 1 second. Hold up.
Yo. Okay. So, apparently they actually caught a rabbit in their little snare.
That they did.
And Motsu actually pulls through and dresses the thing quite well.
Yeah, well, I mean, she tries to pull through, right?
Yeah, well, poor girl couldn't actually...
The one that ultimately ends up having to kill it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, they killed and disemboweled this thing with a lot more detail and blood than I thought was going to be in the series.
I agree with you 100%. And then we have Shion acting like typical Shion.
Mm-hmm.
And basically got them to actually cook the rabbit up in a French cuisine style. Well, to the best of their ability, anyway. And we had her just going on her little Ojo-sama mini tirade about how how excellent fine dining is. Now she's actually had rabbit before. And that's essentially the episode where the girls actually just, like the episode says, they actually taste rabbit. and they enjoy
What
it.
does rabbit taste like? Do you guys know? I've always been curious.
I've never had rabbit.
Neither have I, but I'm really
Think it
curious
tastes
to
like
find out
chicken.
what it tastes like.
Tastes like chicken. I feel like people say that about a lot of things. Like I tried frog, while in St. Thomas, and
I mean, gator tastes like literally swamp chicken, if that makes any sense.
interesting. Huh.
Yeah, it's
I
got
think
like a
people just draw
gamey,
the parallel to
swampy
chicken
taste.
because it doesn't have the same texture as red meats or pork. But
Oh, okay.
as far as flavor is concerned, yeah, I mean, it's like chicken, but like chicken adjacent.
Okay, got it.
I mean, another side interesting fact, apparently people taste like pork, so.
Oh,
Thanks for that,
yeah,
Alec.
thanks, Alec.
Thanks
And-
for the commentary.
All right.
And
Cannibalism commentary with Alec. All
Yeah,
right.
and
That
thank
is our
you,
new
Alec,
segment.
for just adding a bit more flavor to our show here. I appreciate that, my friend.
Oh man, I'm just happy to be here, y'all.
Lord above. Lord help me. So, that's essentially what happened in episode 6. Nothing really too crazy happened in Are You Lost episode 6, right, Jordan?
I mean, that was really the entire episode, right? They got it, killed it, skinned it, gutted it, made a stone knife. I wanted to make that rhyme, but I couldn't.
Yeah, true. Well, we did what we could. So, Jordan, what's next on the queue?
All right. So, what are we talking about next? We talking about Magical Senpai, or are we doing?
Right. I mean, next in the queue for me is if it's for my daughter, I'd even defeat a demon lord.
Oh, see. Oh man.
I know.
So,
So, all right. So, catch me up. What's been going on in Demon? Or like if it's
Essentially-
for my daughter.
essentially, what you need to know what's been happening recently, Jay. Latina actually goes to school. She makes a new friend who is is a rich girl named Sylvia, and she reconnects with the kids that helped her head back to the inn in episodes
Oh, nice.
past.
I like those kids.
And then she has this really racist teacher that calls her a monster. And
Ouch.
Dale decided to step up and I'm gonna call the courts into here, because the courts in this world are ran by the god of war and judgment.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
That's because in this world, everything from schools and hospitals and courts are basically temples, too.
Interesting. That's cool.
And Latina, in an attempt to seem more human, she removes her remaining horn to the point where she hurt herself badly.
Aw.
And
Yeah, I was just like, all right, you made this girl wound herself. All of you are going to die.
I
Exactly.
know. Y'all, there's
Exactly.
a special place in hell for y'all.
And she recovers well, and in typical small child fashion, the patrons of the inn get her to sing after she's fully recovered, and she sings
And she's
off key.
horrible.
Sings off key,
I'm
and it's
sure.
pretty terrible. But it was
I was gonna say most children, children don't really get the sense of pitch until they're at least in their late preteens. So it's understandable unless you're trained from a very young age.
And
But-
so this current episode, episode 5, she experiences snow for the first time. But there's this side, there's these few plots that kind of intersected. One of the kids is trying to get a birthday gift for his father, which prompted Latina to actually want to get a gift for Dale. So she was able to actually buy a satchel for him, and she embroidered what looked like a dog on the satchel itself, because she actually got paid to get the satchel from Kenneth, and she wanted to. It was because she knew it was his birth month, but she missed out on the actual day of Dale's birth.
Oh.
So she wanted to get him a birthday present.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And she kept it a secret from him, which, in typical Dale fashion, made him sad, made him like a failure as a parent. And he goes off in a blizzard to kill some ice monsters, which look like wolves.
Okay.
While some shady individuals wanted to kidnap her because she is a demon that would sell handsomely on the black market.
Alright.
To the point where they almost caught her when she was trying to return a coin purse to one of the patrons named Jylvester. Which I probably called him Bearded Old Man.
Just say the bar patron, one of the bar patrons. Yeah. That's all you gotta say.
Yeah,
it's like Sylvester, but not.
Yeah.
Jylvester.
Yep. I call him Bearded Old Man.
Yeah. The big guy that brought her back, right?
Yep. And he rescues her from getting kidnapped by threatening the shit out of the two potential kidnappers. Those two get promptly arrested.
It's like, I'm going to murder you all.
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say, when that guy tells you something, I feel like it's more of a promise.
Yep, and the two individuals get promptly arrested by the police force, from what I can assume, whom the individual leading the guards was actually Sylvia's father, because he reveals the embroidered gloves that she got him for a birthday present.
Oh, that's cool.
And so everything is patched up, everything is fine at the end. That's essentially what happened in this episode.
Everything is quote-unquote fine until Dale catches wind of this.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. And then Dale's gonna beat some ice.
Well, they're already gonna be going to jail. I guess death will be knocking on their door relatively soon if he finds out the truth.
Yep.
But still, a very solid episode in the series, and I highly recommend that you catch up, Jay, and see these episodes for yourself.
Yeah, I definitely will. I plan on it. I really like this. I really like this one. It's adorable. I enjoy it.
Yeah, the episode where she actually goes through all this turmoil and the pure unadulterated racism that this teacher just bestowed upon this poor child.
Yeah, I am definitely going to get angry, but I'm here for it. Here for it.
But let's move on to another show. What's next on the docket, Jordan?
Alright. After that is, in fact, Magical Senpai.
Alright.
5. 1 second, I like to read the titles.
Nice.
Observer and Senpai, Onion Senpai, Chemistry Senpai, Unexpected Senpai, and Inviting Senpai.
Alright, so what was y'all's favorite vignette from this episode? Mine was the costume change one. Or actually, no, the sword trick. The sword trick was hilarious.
Actually, the one that amused me greatly is assistant and the chemistry club president kind of interacting with each other. That one was amusing to me.
Oh man.
Yeah, I also enjoyed the Madara assistant interaction, for the simple fact that I was just like, oh honey, you're not even doing chemistry anymore. What is this?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then Assistant Kun is just so used to like just firing away with all of Magical Senpai's shenanigans. That he ends up with like kind of pulling a Marilyn Monroe kind of thing on Madara. It's hilarious, and she's just like, the Magic Club is truly full of shameless people.
Yep. Just such disrespect.
And she's not wrong. She's not wrong in the slightest.
Oh, and the funniest, but by far the scene, the vignette that actually got me laughing. Well, it continued into a couple vignettes. Is her senpai trying to surprise Assistant Kun here by appearing out of the box, but he sits on the box and professes his love of the furry animal thing.
Oh yeah,
and she
yeah,
misconstrues that.
Yeah, when
Oh,
she confused it for a confession. Yeah, that's pretty hilarious. I love her response. She gives him a pile of her underwear.
yep, because she thought they were handkerchiefs.
I just wanted to know where in her room was she keeping a pile of handkerchiefs.
Right.
Apparently, the same drawer she keeps her panties.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, that'd have to be the case, right? But yeah, my favorite would have to be the sword trick, only because like when she did it, like when the assistant was doing it, like he wasn't paying attention, and like just the points he was doing, it was just like she's like, "Are you doing this on purpose?" And I'm like, I feel like I say this every time I watch the show. They're doing this on purpose, and you know they probably are. They more than likely are, but like. It was pretty funny. I enjoyed that one.
Well,
it was like, it's a take on a classic trick, and it was pretty damn hilarious.
We also gotta state the obvious here. They mentally scarred poor nameless chicks with one
yeah,
trick.
those two girls that were trying to observe the magic club with the head trick. Yeah.
Yep, they were terrified, and of course it had to like happen during a thunderstorm. Just add that extra bit of flavor.
I love, but also with the sword tricks, going back to Madara, I love just I love how, I love what she hears out of context. Ouch! No, not my butt, it hurts. Like, yeah, I would be highly suspicious of the Magic Club too.
Yeah, but that was just in episode 4 though, Jay.
I'm suspicious of you in this moment, and I was aware of where you're quoting it from.
Exactly!
Right? You know the context, and it still sounds suspect. Like, oh my god, it was great. It was great. So, are we not going to talk about 6, or we just stick with 5?
Fuck it, we might as well just talk about episode 6. I don't give a damn anymore.
Alright, so we get the introduction of the Street Performer Club.
Wait a minute. Unknowing senpai, gal pants senpai, plotting senpai, and suspicious senpai.
Yep. Alright, so yeah, we get the introduction of the Street Performer Club, which is Maki-chan and Makun. And what I love it because, you know, Maki-chan, she is the obligatory transfer student. You can tell because she's a ginger.
Yep, and she's also a gal, which is a fun character type in shows like this.
Yep, I think it's really funny because, like, you know, she starts talking about how, like, she also invited Makun, and she goes on and on about Makun, and then, like, assistant has like this, like, you know, pretty boy protagonist type, like, muscular character image in his head, and in walks homeboy from Hajime no Gal.
Yeah, fat kid.
Pedophile dude.
This fat kid. This fat, unassuming, just pathetic waist.
I love that his dynamic with Maki-chan is like the reverse of assistant and magical senpai, because, you know, she's the competent one, and he's the one that's inept. But, like, she's so enamored by him that she's like, you see how cool he is? Like,
and
she's really competent.
Yeah, and we're just gonna skate the fact that they're brother and sister.
See, that was my question. Are they actually related, or are they just referring to themselves as, like, bro and sis, like, the same way, like,
as far as I know, and until I am proven otherwise.
And so did he, so it'd be a little unusual for them not to be related, you know?
Okay, so they are actually related. Okay.
Yeah, she wouldn't be called a bro-con if she,
It was trope.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cause like, you know, like in the West, you know, we call each other bro and sis all the time. So I was, and because she's a ginger and, you know, he looks like a normal Japanese kid, I was like, oh, so that's just a thing. And you know, there are plenty of, like, and like the whole One-san as a sign of respect thing is pretty common in Japan too.
Yeah, and there's also a thing called hair dye, Jay.
I mean, yeah, but like I I just assumed that she was just because she's a transfer student.
She's she's a gyro or whatever the hell.
Yes, exactly. And them broads dye their hair all the damn time. Come on now.
She doesn't look anything like what she truly looks like.
Okay. But yeah. So uncomfortable incest, typical anime. That's cool. We find out another weird quirk about Senpai. Apparently, she is scared of balloons. So that's
when she's packing sweater balloons in her chest.
That's a very odd thing to be afraid of, but okay. And then the Street Performer Club decides to show Assistant Kun and Magical Senpai what they've got, and they Maki-chan does this trick with basically where she wears a balloon suit, but then she has a bit of ineptitude here where her skirt is missing, and Makun is like, abort, you don't gotta go through with it, and she's like, nah, I'm gonna finish it, dang it. And so she pops the balloon suit, panties exposed, and she's like, ta-da, now clap.
And Assist is like, fuck yes.
He's like, street performance is awesome. Fuck yeah. Yeah, I'm down with changing this to the Street Performance Club. Yeah. But, Magical Senpai is like, I'm not having any of this. And then One-san shows up, teacher shows up, and she's like, alright, well, there's only one way to settle this. And the argument is settled via boob comparison.
Yep, they actually had to weigh those knockers.
Yep, and apparently Magical Senpais are heavier. So that brings me back to my question about how she was able to run so effectively on the track team. But that's neither here nor there.
It's one thing that the universe will never tell us, Jay.
But yeah, that was pretty funny. Probably my favorite vignette was the hypnotism thing.
Oh God, I was dead. That was absolutely hilarious. Assistant Kun was a freaking genius. Yep.
He's like, wait a minute. Okay, so it only works if you're dumb. And she obviously is like, oh, then why don't you try it on me? He's like, all right, bet.
Assistant Kun was treading a very dangerous line.
Yep. And then he decides, like any other pervert, he's like, let me abuse my power a little bit real quick.
He's treading a dangerous line. I'm glad he caught himself.
Yeah, he caught himself real quick, because at first he was like, alright, I'm gonna do it, and then he's like, okay, at least she's aware enough to know to, like, have me go over here. But he's like, alright, I'm gonna keep it going, no, I'm good. Snap out of it, you're a cat now. Okay.
And then she becomes a cat. Woo. And then he got the bright idea. Like, I can erase this bitch's stage fright.
Yeah, he had a brilliant idea. He's like, wait, I could use this to possibly cure her stage fright and actually make her good at magic. However, she's cured her stage fright, but her own, delusion of, the sold-out crowd makes her emotional, so she's unable to perform the trick. And then when he tries to test it out fully, when he gets her to perform for Maki and Makun, she ends up failing again. So even hypnotism is not strong enough to cure her crippling stage fright.
I just attributed that it can't cure stupid.
Well, that's also true. But, I mean, in the episode when Assistant Kun joins the chem club and she's, by herself, she's able to perform her tricks flawlessly. So we know that it's not just that she's stupid, it's, it is definitely the stage fright.
True, but I like to attribute that she can be easily bamboozled.
I mean, she's definitely an idiot. That's part of the endearing quality to her. But, in terms of magic, she's not stupid.
Yeah, but...
Everything else is fair game.
Yep. So,
But yeah, really good episode. I enjoyed it.
Very funny, very, very funny. So, what's next, Jordan?
Up next is Dr. Stone, episode 5, Stone World: The Beginning. But I have to go, so I will talk to y'all later.
All right, later, Jordan.
So, it's just going to be me and Jay here. Well, and Alec, if
so,
he interjects a little bit.
Yeah, so Stone World: The Beginning is basically the official end of the prologue to Dr. Stone, where we get the flashback of Senku's initial depetrification and his first efforts of survival in the Stone World. It's pretty interesting. I like that, unlike in the manga, they actually give the monkeys like dialogue, like the monkeys that are observing Senku the whole time.
Oh yeah.
I liked that. It was pretty hilarious.
These simians were not here to have fun and games. These simians were basically throwing shade at Senku's attempts to do science things.
Yep, it was pretty funny. I think that made the flashback more enjoyable, because I feel like when I read it in the manga, it was good, but it felt kind of like dull without like Taiju or Yuzuriha to bounce off of. So I was glad they added like dialogue for the monkeys.
Which, by the way, talking about those two, they ran like champions.
Yep. I mean, nobody actually assumed that Senku was dead, right? Like,
no, I didn't. I was like, way to like kill your protagonist there, show.
Yeah, obviously I wasn't gonna spoil it, but I mean he's the main character of the show, and it's a shonen series. He's not gonna die. Yeah, no, I thought it was pretty clever, like how he got around Tsukasa and his death blow. So it was pretty dope, very ingenious. I like the chess game back and forth. He's set up as a very strong antagonist, and obviously he's going to be a long-running antagonist, especially going into this arc. And next episode, we'll actually get to see Senku's plan to deal with Tsukasa and what that entails. And it's the beginning of the first official arc of the series. So it's pretty cool. We get to see Ishigami Village, and I'm excited because I'm like a fourth of the way through that arc currently,
nice.
As I'm reading it on the Shonen Jump app.
Very nice. So, let's actually move on to another one of the shows. Let's actually go to Fire Force, actually.
Okay, I am super hyped about Fire Force because not only is there like a dope female character introduced, but there's a dope black female character introduced. Do you know how rare that? I'm so mad Jordan had to go, but because you know how rare that shit is. I can count on one hand the amount of dope black female characters that aren't just racist characters. Like there's what's that one? The kind of mother-daughter one. I want to say it's Mikochi. I know Mikochi is the other half of it, but it's the one where the badass like mercenary chick ends up taking care of this little girl. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but the name escapes me at the present moment.
It's Hana and something. Hana's the name of the little girl, and I know the lady's name starts with an M. But yeah, there's her, there's Yoruichi, and then there's the princess from Fire Force. And she is awesome. I mean, obviously I don't like her, but like I like her because you know you gotta support any black character in anime because they're just a unicorn, even if they are a bitch. Although, anybody that has like the domination step on me fetish, there you go. There's your wife.
Yep, and I am perfectly okay with that fetish, but.
Alright, man, do you?
But there's a big but to that. She may look good, but I can't stand a woman. Well, I can't stand the way she was. The best way I can explain it is her motivation as the captain of the 5th district, and how the 5th company seems to be the research division, and
she has a very interesting power. So I don't really know exactly what her power is. Was she like forcing her will onto people?
Oh no!
She,
From what I can understand is that she can cause. From what I can gather, it's like manipulating the internal body heat of somebody.
Oh, so that's how she gets them to like bow down. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
that
so it's kind of like inducing heat stroke of some sort.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Like, that's kind of what I guessed when Shinra was caught into her, and it has to be through eye contact too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of like almost like a sharding ability. That's interesting. Okay, cool. So yeah, the premise of this episode basically, Shinra and Arthur are sent off to rescue a dog, a cat that's in a tree.
Oh no! It was a dog, but it was actually one of the mascots.
It was Momoto-kun, one of the mascots of the Fire Force.
And I think it was Maki is her name.
Maki's the one who sent them out. But Momoto-kun is the name of the mascot.
No, what I'm saying, Maki sent them out because, well, she's a big fan of those characters.
Yep, and, they were drowning in paperwork, and Maki is way more efficient in handling the paperwork. So she's like, I'll take care of it, you guys do this. And then they ended up, being away while they were while everybody else was called out on the mission.
Oh,
and so
she apologized. Was pissed. The lieutenant was pissed.
And she apologized because she's like, "Oh man, the lieutenant's gonna be so mean to them. I'm so sorry, you guys. Ramen's on me for the next week." So the mission is, which honestly I thought that it's a really cool addition to like the world building, which I'm really liking with Fire Force. So also we discover that actual firefighters exist in this world too, because Arthur straight up says, he's like, wait, isn't that a job for just regular firefighters? I was like, oh, so regular firefighters are a thing.
Yeah, and this is an individual that actually murdered several people, and since he was
a former firefighter, and the way he justifies it is he didn't murder more people than he saved, so it balances out.
Yep, and he becomes an infernal due to him actually getting off scot-free.
Yeah, he ends up mostly keeping, and the really interesting thing about it is he keeps a majority of his faculties, so he's able to talk and he's self-aware, and it's really interesting. And during the battle, Shinra is really struggling because it's different from when you're dealing with just a feral infernal. Like, you're just kind of putting them out of their misery. But this one is completely self-aware. So what am I going to do? And then, of course, just as Shinra is about to finish the job and put him to rest, that is when Princess and the rest of the show up and basically commandeer him for research purposes.
Which pisses Shinra off, and she challenges...
it pisses off Captain Obi, and then, of course, we end up meeting the rookie in the 5th Division, who is this, arrogant brat who makes fun of Captain Obi, which pisses off both Shinra and Arthur, and Maki ends up handling that kid. And I love it because you'd think the lieutenant was going to give her shit, but the lieutenant just daps her up.
Yeah, I really like that. And there was nothing else Obi could do, and he pretty much said, yeah, you can take him. But you were in our jurisdiction when you did it.
Yeah, and then he was, but be careful, our fires aren't going to come out, our fires aren't put out that easily, so you don't want to mess with us. And I also like that, Obi is also not afraid to, push the boundaries and actually help Shinra investigate, his family's fire, despite the fact that there is clearly something higher up going on with that whole matter.
I agree with you 100%, and yet another great episode in this series. I enjoy it. Yeah, I'm sure you enjoy it too, Jay.
Oh yeah, it has like you can definitely tell it's made by David Productions because it has the same kind of like epicness and fluidity in the animation that every part of JoJo has had so far.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the same kind of flair, comedy, and art style as you'd expect from the mangaka behind Soul Eater. So this is probably my second favorite show of the season so far, right behind Vinland Saga. And then with Doctor Stone probably tying with it, but like I definitely am edging out Fire Force a little bit because I'm like experiencing this for the first time, whereas Doctor Stone I've read the manga for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it's really dope. I enjoy Fire Force a lot.
Alright, so let's actually get into Do You Love Your Mom and her 2-hit combo.
Alright.
And with this episode 4, the most amusing thing about this episode in particular is we actually get to see more of the backstory between Wise and her mother, and how her mother became the Empress of Night. Essentially, the bitch cheated. She was able to actually obtain an item that I can assume was connected to her fan that allowed her to actually pretty much bypass the internal systems of the world itself so she could do whatever she wanted. But when there's a will, there's a way. They were able to basically disrupt her magic ability thanks to an item that they obtained that basically renders all magic useless.
Oh, interesting.
Yep, because Porter had that in her back pocket, quite literally. And like daughter like mother, they were, since they're both sages, their magic ability was reduced to nothing when they are silenced, so to speak. And not even your big cheat code that ruins the world and shapes it into your own will cannot be used against something like that, which Mamako, in pure Mamako fashion, basically mollywops this bitch. And the two of them actually have this debate on what motherhood means. Because the Empress was saying kids ain't shit, they drain your life, you just want to have fun and all this nonsense. And then Mamako's like, you know what? I've had those thoughts too, but I enjoy being a mom. Because this is what because I want to make sure that when you have a kid, you make sure your kid is happy, essentially. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Our gang pretty much defeats the Empress of Night, turns her on the side of good, and Wise and her mother reconnect after like arguing with each other, calling each other flat and whatnot.
Alright.
Because apparently their mother-daughter dynamic is not like the child-mother dynamic of Misato and Mamako, where they don't argue with each other. Well, Wise and her mother argue with each other because of their family history, whereas Masato would yell at his mom and then feel bad about yelling at her a few moments later. Because she would start to cry and be sad. But they were under the impression that after this whole thing with her mother was done, that Wise wasn't going to be a part of their party. But essentially, that did not happen. She's a part of the party permanently, and all because she has a bit of a crush on Misato, or she actually likes the fact that there is a mother figure out there that's not a piece of shit like her mother. So either or, that's her reason for actually sticking with the party and helping them. So very good, very funny. I still recommend that you catch this show, Jay.
I'm definitely gonna check it out.
So let's actually go to Isekai Cheat Magician, episode 4. So essentially what happened in Cheat Magician, in this episode, in the previous episode, they actually needed to stop some illegal trading of various goods in the marketplace that were being sold on the black market. And in particular is this fruit that is very prominent in the village that they're staying at and is one of Rin's favorites. So they go to the orchard that this fruit is at, and they actually stop a bunch of monsters, but they're under the impression like, hey, someone more intelligent's using these monsters because they're not typically found in this area. We actually get to meet the individuals that brought those monsters to the orchard. We had a badass assassin chick that has the invisibility cloak from Harry Potter.
Alright.
And a white-haired individual that Tatsumi and Rin pretty much pointed out, like, yep, he's suspicious. And the way they kind of figured it out is like, his hands aren't callous, they haven't touched a damn fruit in their life. They're too soft and supple. And so they get into a fight. The girls, like Mira, the elf girl, and Rin face off against the lady assassin named Grammy. And then Tatsumi fights Kasum, who is the white-haired individual, who basically was the brains behind the operation. So those individuals fight each other. Kasum summons his ice elemental, which can only be hit by magic and not by physical attacks. And then he feeds it some dark energy that turns it into a red elemental that allows it to breathe fire now. But since Tatsumi is a sorcerer instead of a magician, he has access to a different skill set. But he can only use enhanced magic right now because he needs to forge a contract with a spirit to actually call his. And he gets one in this episode. I think her name is Ariel. Where he basically uses wind magic to mollywop the elemental. And as Kasum and Grammy were running away, he basically shoots off Kasum's arm. And so his arm's gone. Nothing is gone.
Well, damn.
And so they have to solve this mystery of what the hell's going on here in this world. What is this underground black market like? And all this crazy shenaniganery. But still, good episode, good show. Then let's actually get to Danmachi Season 2, Episode 4? Was it?
Did we already talk about? Oh, well, I mean, we kind of already talked about it. But yeah, okay.
Talked about it a little bit, but we can go into a little bit more detail. It's the actual war game, but they should have listened to Cassandra. The Apollo Familia should have listened to Cassandra, I should say.
Yep.
Because they got the Trojan horse treatment.
Obliterated. Yeah, they got absolutely obliterated. Yo, when Bell used his Argonaut skill to supercharge his firebolt, and his firebolt, like, literally just decimated the castle, or the tower that the general dude was at, like, bro, that shit was crazy.
Yep.
Mikoto's gravity magic is still pretty cool. I hope she upgrades it more, so it's more useful than just, oh, I'm gonna pin you guys down for a few for an extended period of time.
And
Because like gravity magic can be super powerful.
Oh yeah, and Wolf gets a few badass moments where he fights against one of the other members of the Apollo Familia.
Yeah, you want to talk about badass moments? Ryu with the magic swords, man, and we also get a little thing. Apparently, several elf villages were like destroyed by magic swords or people wielding magic swords. So, like an elf member of either the Apollo Familia or the Soma Familia, I don't know, because they're kind of combined forces, was like, you should be ashamed of that. You know how many elf villages were burned down using magical swords? And she goes, well, I have bigger things to worry about than my own racial hatred. Okay, I have a friend that needs help. So if that's the case, I'm going to be as shameful as I need to be. She is a freaking badass, man. Ryu is so dope.
Yep, she takes out the elf dude, who I think was a part of the Apollo Familia.
Yeah.
I'm not really 100% sure, but she
Yeah,
beats the asses
yeah.
of these individuals. Mikoto put in work.
She basically cuts a hole through the Apollo Familia's like frontline forces. Lily used her transformation magic to impersonate the little punk kid who started the fight in the first episode, and she lets Welf and Bell in.
Yep, and Apollo was like, the fuck?
I love Apollo's facial expressions. They are like so over the top. Like they almost look like Ahegao faces.
Yep. And this man really wanted to give Bell the bad touch.
Yep.
Jordan didn't believe me that Apollo did not do some bad touching with his familia.
Apollo! I was gonna say, Apollo fucks everything. I would not be surprised if he fucked every member of his familia. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the initiation test.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the thing. And that's why our commander, Heliclos, that man, he was like, I was Apollo's favorite. Why do you have to pick you?
Yeah, he was being a little bitch about it. And then Bell beat his ass after the training with Tion and Eyes.
Yep, but it was satisfying. This man...
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, this absolute unit, Bell Cornell...
I love the moment when he drops the Hestia knife and, he basically pulls from his lessons from Eyes and Tion. It's like, the finishing blow is the closest thing you can get to letting your guard down. That's when movements get easiest to predict. And so he drops the Hestia knife and just shoryukens the dude. Like, no, you're not even worthy enough to get stabbed by my knife. No, I'm gonna hit you with my fucking fist.
And it knocks this bitch of a man out. And Hestia's like, oh, Apollo, guess what, bitch?
Yep.
I'm taking your house. I want you gone. I want your familia disbanded.
Her face when she's like all like sadistic and excited and it has like the dark background, that was hilarious. Yeah, but then she's like, I'm taking all your assets, your house is mine now, and you are permanently banished from Aurorio, and your family is completely disbanded. Goodbye, bitch. Goodbye.
Yep, and he's like, oh, fuck.
Yep, and then Freya's just out. Freya's just over here in the corner, all according to plan.
Yep, and of course we had to get. Well, in that same shot of her just looking over everything, her dress has to show a good portion of her ass.
I mean, she's like, we've already established that she is like a sex-obsessed deviant.
Yep.
So.
And she is a Norse god of beauty.
Yep.
And like all other gods of beauty and sexual things, she has to be a bit promiscuous.
Yep. She is a proud butt.
The proudest of thoughts, with a big burly animal man.
But yeah, no, it's we also get the official Hestia Familia emblem now that they have a full base of operations and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And it's a fire in front of a bell. And I thought that's nice. That was cute.
Oh, yeah, that was a really nice touch. I thought she was going to incorporate something with a rabbit, since, the rabbit imagery has been so closely associated with Bell. But they went with a literal bell, and I still like it. It's cool. Danmachi Season 2 has not disappointed so far. I've really honestly, it feels like they stepped up their game from the first season.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you, and I'm really interested in what they're gonna do with the Kitsune girl and the other and those big.
Yeah, the other girl that shows up in the OP.
Yep, and those lovely Amazon-looking women.
Yep. I'm pretty sure that's where they're from. I'm pretty sure Tione and Fione are from the Amazon tribe.
Yep, but
So-
those lovely ladies.
Oh, they're another example. They're another example of badass black characters in anime. I completely forgot. My bad, y'all. Yeah, Tione
Yeah.
and Fione from Danmachi.
Yep, but I kind of attribute them to be more like their look and appearance to be more. I would say more South American tribes like Inca or Mayan.
Oh, it still counts. Still count. Oh,
Well,
we take what we
but
get.
Jay, you should know that. I don't know what I'm about to say here. Is that brown is different than black, dude?
Well, I say black when I don't like using the whole of color thing. Okay?
I know, I agree with you there, but
it's just we'll take it. We'll take it.
Well, yeah,
It's a non-white, non-Japanese person, is what I'm saying. If you want me to really be that specific.
well, what I'm gonna say here is that thank the Lord that these broads exist because they are wonderful to look at.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like dark-skinned anime girls are a treat. They are so rare, but when they happen, they need to be appreciated.
Yep, they are like sweet, sweet candy. We need to savor each
All
moment.
right,
But
see now that one can be taken out of context a little bit shaky there, but I'll let you have that one.
I mean, we're all. Let's think of it like this, Jay. Everyone at home listening, you know, you come to this channel to hear all of us pretty much profess our deviancies for a bit, and to hear like the random expletive.
But yeah, great episode. Honestly, Danmachi, like, there's a visible jump in animation quality from season 1 to season 2, and that's great because, like, you know, JC staff, they had a bit of a consistency issue with One Punch Man season 2. Not saying it was bad, but there was a consistency. There was definitely a difference in consistency. But Danmachi has remained consistent this season, and it's been great.
Yeah, and I agree. And now we're gonna move on to our last show of the week, which is Vinland Saga, and that is episode 5, The Troll's Son. So,
Okay, so basically, to sum this up pretty quickly, using a reference, Thorfinn has now begun his Inigo Montoya journey. My name is Thorfinn, son of Thors. You've killed my father. Prepare to die.
essentially, yes. And this young lad trained hard. He learned how to throw a knife. He learned how to kill a wolf. He learned how to kill a rabbit.
Yeah.
He knows how to hunt deer.
Yeah.
Or no,
he-
that was
he
Senku.
realized
That was
he's
Senku.
Yeah. He realized he's way too small to efficiently wield a sword. And he's like, wait a minute, I've had a dagger this whole time. It's a lot lighter, I can wield it a lot easier, and I can throw it. Okay, cool.
Although, and towards the end of the episode, this kid had brass cojones. Because
Oh
he
yeah,
said,
and you can tell that like the guy who killed Thor's the leader of the enemy forces. I'm not gonna try to pronounce it. It's Scandinavian.
Escalade?
Askelid. Okay, Askelid. He even said by the end, like when Thorfinn made his declaration and his promise that like once I get stronger, I'm going to kill you. And he
Yeah,
goes,
once
"Good."
I get glory in battle, I'm going to find you, I'm going to kill you.
Yep, and he's like, good. It's a promise between warriors, and you can tell that like there's genuine respect there. And I was like, oh, that's dope. Good for you, man. Like at least you're an interesting antagonist where you don't just laugh him off. Like you
Yep.
can tell he's serious. Like
And I also like that during their whole excursion into this English village, that the other mercenaries try to offer Thorfinn food, but he doesn't take.
Yeah, they're not assholes to him. They respect the kid for like just hanging in there, because it takes a lot to hang in there.
Yep, and also before the episode ended, we got to see Yuva and Helga's perspective, learning
Yep.
that Thor's is dead, and that Thorfinn is missing.
We get to see their different grieving processes. Of course, Helga, starts to get depressed and it's kind of down. Meanwhile, like Ylva, she kind of does the opposite and just throws herself into work. She's like, I don't have time to be sad. Dad's gone. I've got to basically fill his shoes. I've got this. And eventually it gets to the point where like Helga is like, well, thank you, Ylva, but that's enough. It's okay. And it's such a beautiful moment. And like the thing with the Studio Wit, they're so good at animating like the big action scenes, but they're also really good at animating and emphasizing the quieter moments. Because like the moment when Helga just tells Ylva to stop, and then she stops talking, she stops moving, and then suddenly like the music cuts and all you see is tears streaming down her face. That is a powerful moment, and it's so well done.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. It's just when, and also the funny moments that she goes into, like, saying, you know what? It would be nice if we had more help here. I should probably find a husband at some point.
Yeah,
that was
pretty
funny.
And also her basically owning the other dudes when she's like when they're hunting the big ass.
Oh yeah.
She's like, I got first hit. Yeah, she's dope.
Yeah, she actually pulled through trying to support her family and whatnot. You gotta respect her for that. And you also gotta respect Thorfinn for such a young age, training hard to actually...
And like sticking to his conviction, right? Well, like you were joking before, like he's a better survivor.
Oh, hell yeah. Like, this young lad... even though Senku didn't have the brawn to actually, like, pull through for the most part, he had to, like, go through a lot of trial and error. Thorfinn actually did the same thing, but Senku may have a big brain, but he ain't the son of a Viking.
Yep. And you can tell, as the title of the episode implies, he is the troll's son. The blood of the troll of Drum runs through his veins, and like he's got that tenacity, like that I won't give up until I accomplish my goal. And it's weird, right? Because you think this is a pretty simple, straightforward story. Honestly, it's cliche to say this, but I'm not really that interested in his fight with what's his name?
Ashley?
Askley? Yeah. I'm not that interested in that. Obviously, that's going to be satisfying towards the end, but of the overall series. But like, I'm more interested in seeing Thorfinn's journey to get stronger. Like, I'm not really too focused on the destination. I want to see what he has to go through to get to where he needs to be.
Oh, I agree with you there.
Because like all the preview stuff that we saw of Vinland Saga showing like teenage or adult Thorfinn looks so badass. I cannot wait for that time jump next episode.
Oh yeah, I
Hopefully
agree.
Next episode. And apparently, according to my comments, this was all anime original, but but a lot of people who've read the manga said it was definitely necessary and very well done. So
nice, very nice. I like that idea. Oh, and so we're gonna go into the Otaku soapbox discussion here. So, Jay,
alright.
I think we should have a little bit of fun here.
Alright, so what are we talking about?
So, we've been on this kick of talking about different genres.
Alright.
So, I want to propose to you, you just pick a genre, and we're going to go what makes a perfect protagonist in that particular genre.
Okay, interesting. Alright, let's go romance. Let's go romance.
Okay. So what makes for a good romance protagonist? So
Okay, interesting. So, for me, I don't like the passive romance protagonist. I feel like romance protagonist needs to be active, needs to have agency, and this is my biggest problem with, like, a lot of harem protagonists. They're so fucking dunderheaded. Like,
yeah, but
I know it's its own genre by itself, but like, but with romance, I like it when, like, you don't have the, shy, awkward, like, oh no, what does she think about me? When the girl is clearly into you, like, I understand that you're trying to appeal to, like, the sad nerd or whatever, but not everybody's a sad nerd, okay? Like,
yeah, but
some
here's
people
the
actually know how to make moves.
and here's the crazy thing about that, Jay. When you mention stuff about harem protagonists, there's a real reason why they're portrayed the way that they are. They're
Yeah.
essentially blank slates with little to no personality, since most harem shows are either based on
Or
manga,
self-insert,
light
yeah.
novels, or visual
Visual
novels.
novels. Yeah, they're
And
all
that's
self-insert.
typically been the
No, I
case.
get it.
But here's the crazy thing. When you look at a well-established harem series like Tenchi Muyo, Tenchi actually does develop his own personality and his own characteristics.
Yeah.
Most other harem protagonists don't have that luxury like Tenchi does. But if we're
I'm
talking
gonna
about
say,
like
at least-
actual romance stories or like shoujo romance stories, that's where you get interesting stuff. That's where you can get characters that are a little bit more realistic because they're not what's the word I'm looking for? They're not necessarily controlled by the money machine, so to speak, when it
See,
comes to
I
like
feel-
selling things.
See, I feel like the key to a good romance series is to find a good balance between the amount of drama that you want to display. Because granted, there are some times where I'm in the mood for melodrama, but, like, for the most part, as much as I enjoy drama, I don't want it to be... I don't want it to overshadow the actual romantic elements, right? And also, a big key... Well, I mean, this is a big key in any series, really, but I feel like it's especially true with romances. Have a, like, definitive and good idea on the pacing of the romance. Nobody wants to wait an entire season for these two people to just hold hands, okay? Like, actually make good headway within the series. And I'm not saying, like, the character has to make a complete 360 by the end. I mean, one of my favorite romance anime, Toradora, like, she does not change completely by the end with... Taiga does not change completely by the end when she and Ryuji actually get together. She's still herself, she's still intact, but, their romance, like, progressed naturally and organically, and I feel like that's, like, the key to really making a good and effective romance, to actually make it believable, which is why I liked something like MMO Junkie a couple years ago, different things like that. Bloom Into You was great for that regard as well. Even Citrus, some people might disagree, but I really like Citrus, both the manga and the anime adaptation, although a lot of people don't like the anime adaptation as much, but,
the manga
all
is still
solid.
pretty solid, but one that I can always point to being the pinnacle of expect what you don't expect is Ore Monogatari, or My Love Story.
Oh yeah, the Monogatari series is
No,
good.
not the Monogatari series. It's Ore Monogatari, or My
Ore
Love
Monogatari.
Story,
Okay.
where you see what looks to be... You have a character who looks out of place in shoujo manga, in Takeo Goda, where he is basically a lovable goof that wants to confess his love and actually get a girlfriend. But all the girls that he has ever confessed to basically rejected him and talked shit about him behind his back, much to him not realizing it. But his best buddy comes in, who is the typical Bishonen protagonist in these kinds of stories, actually rejects these girls because he's looking out for his main boy.
That's dope. That's a great way.
So when Takeo meets Renko, who is his love interest, he at first didn't. He was under the impression that she's just one of these girls that is interested in Senna, his best friend. But in actuality, she's into him because she was saved by him by a groper on the train. And this act of just chivalry really made her fall in love with him. And he was already into her. So the two of them actually kind of fell for each other at that moment. But were having trouble actually starting their relationship at that point. And of course, there's as the series went on, there's that typical melodrama of a third person who is much older, by the way, in his early 20s, who is a pastry chef. He was trying to get in between their relationship, which luckily Renko and Takeo actually stayed together during that turbulent point.
Oh, nice.
But that's the thing I like about that story in particular. It's and what I like about shoujo manga and shoujo romances in general.
Probably one of my favorite romance anime over the past few years, and it's actually getting a sequel series sometime, I believe, either this year, late this year, or early next year. It's finally getting a third season because the light novels are about to. I'm pretty sure either are already wrapped up or about to be by the time the series comes out, by the time the anime adaptation comes out. And it is, of course, Oregairu, or My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu. It's one of my favorite romance animes because it looks at romance from a very psychological perspective. Because, Hibiki Hachiman, the main protagonist, he is somebody who used to be very optimistic about romance, and he would, try his best to make friends and, confess to people. But every time he'd open himself up, people would just reject him and turn him down. So he made the conscious decision to become a loner because the way he sees it, if he makes himself a horrible person and, people want to avoid him, it saves him it protects him from being rejected or having to, open himself up and be vulnerable to people until he meets Yuki, and I forget the other girl's name, but the pink-haired girl, and they become friends, and they end up, kind of doing sort of a almost Bunny Girl Senpai type thing where they, all throughout the seasons, they help solve different people's problems, and slowly Hachiman starts to open up as a person, and he starts to make friends with all the people, all the different fellow students that he helps. And by the end of the second season, both girls confess that they are into him, and the big dilemma is not just that he has feelings for both girls, but it's really interesting because his big dilemma isn't even just choosing a girl. It's that, oh man, if I choose a girl, it's going to ruin our entire friendship. And I spent so long alone that I don't want to lose this friendship. This friendship is all I have. So it's it gives everything a lot more weight. And it's such an interesting perspective. It's not just he's not your normal romance protagonist, and I really like it. It's a very, very good show. I liked it. And I liked it so much that I ended up reading the light novel. Absolutely fantastic. If you haven't seen Oregairu, you need to see Oregairu.
I've tried actually watching it a few times, but it just didn't stick with me at first. But I will definitely give it a shot. But the one thing I can always say to actually get back to our topic here for a bit, for what makes a great romance protagonist, I think always expect the unexpected when it comes to a protagonist for a romance story. because with Takeo and Hachiman, they're individuals that on the surface may not be good leads, but they turn out to be great leads at the during their series.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's a hint of relatability to these characters. And I think that's the one thing about the romance genre that I always will enjoy is the hint of relatability.
Relatability is probably the biggest factor I look for in a romance series, more than anything else. Which is why I really enjoyed MMO Junkie when it came out, especially because I met my girlfriend online, and she was a lot like, she's actually very similar in personality to the main girl in MMO Junkie. Like, so much so to the point where, like, she wasn't really into anime, and she's not really into anime as of right now, but I showed her MMO Junkie, and she's like, oh my god, this is pretty much me. And I was like, right? I told you. Yeah, it's definitely that element of relatability, which is why I'm starting to like this. I really enjoy this new sudden, like, surge of adult romance anime. And no, I am not talking about hentai, you fuckers. I'm actually talking about romance between adults. Because, you know, obviously with anime being a prominently, like, high school demographic type of thing, most of the anime and series are set in high school. But I love the ones that are actually set either in college or just during someone's adult life. There, because, you know, being an adult now, I can't really find as much relatability like to a teenage or young adult protagonist, right? So, like, having somebody in their, like, mid-20s to early 30s, like, I can definitely vibe with that more, and that's why, like, I gravitate more towards shows like MMO Junkie. And what was that other one from a couple seasons ago with the friend group, and they're like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
We're like the one girl that into like plays Monster Hunter all the time.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've seen clips of that show.
I watched it, but I can't remember what it's called.
But I'm sure someone will let us know eventually. But the one thing I want to end my kind of point on here is relatability is a good thing, but sometimes too much relatability or some nuttiness can really hinder your story. One thing that I like to point out, Golden Time, even though it was made by the same people that did Toradora,
I really did not like Golden Time. I mean, I liked it in the beginning.
It frustrates me. It frustrates me to no end. Like, okay.
When they started adding, like, the memory type stuff, I was like, oh, God, no.
Oh, believe me, when you actually get to... I mean, we have all had that struggle, folks. I mean, Jay has experienced it, I've experienced it. There's this point of, like, when you watch too much of a genre and you just know its tropes like the back of your hand, and when you're pretty much at this point where, like, you feel fatigued, Golden Time is that to me.
Just real quick, a funny story about Golden Time, right? So, me and Corey were having a conversation about romance anime, and I was looking for a new romance anime to watch. And Corey was like, hey, you should check out Golden Time, it's pretty good. You love Toradora, it's done by the same person, you should watch Golden Time. So I get about halfway through Golden Time, and I'm like, what the fuck did you tell me to watch? And then Corey's like, oh, well, see, I told you to watch it so that you would finish it, because I know you never leave anything unfinished, because I stopped about halfway through when I sensed the bullshit coming. And I was like, you motherfucker, you fucking tricked me.
You awful clown.
But yeah, that's my story with Golden Time. Never trust Corey, guys. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, there is always going to be a moral of the story. Corey is a horrible monster.
Never to be trusted ever again.
Never. But I think that pretty much, to summarize, we kind of share the opinion that a good romance protagonist must have a hint of relatability. And at least on my end, always expect the unexpected when it comes to your protagonists, because you don't have to make them blank slates, but you have to make them a bit interesting. Give them a motivation that kind of sees the character
and I mean,
through.
Not to say that like blank slates aren't fun, because I mean like stuff. There are certain shows like DxD, which it's not a romance, it's a harem, but like Issei is pretty much a blank slate, but he has his own quirks and personality that makes it fun. Like just add a little bit of spice. You don't have to necessarily like divert completely from the blank slate. You don't have to be 100% creative, but like add something to differentiate.
Yeah, and this is a comparison that I always make when it comes to like the topic of romance or harem anime. Never make your protagonist an Ichika or Imura. For the love of all that is holy in this world, never make an Ichika or Imura. Because fuckers like those deserve to be castrated and fed by mules.
Alright, on that lovely note.
So, we're going to end this here.
Taco Soapbox.
Yep, so I hope that we can continue on this trend where next week for the Soapbox we're actually going to be talking about what makes a great romance, a great romantic interest for a romance anime.
Oh, waifu talk! Yay!
Yep, so we can actually get to the bread and butter of Jay and myself, which is analyzing those great anime women. Mostly in romance anime.
I was gonna say, like, waifu talk is kind of our specialty. I consider myself a waifologist.
Well, to be fair, I am the harem king, and I've pretty much pegged your taste to a T.
That's fair. I wear my heart on my sleeve, man. I know what I like. But yeah, it'll be fun. It'll definitely be a fun conversation.
And we're gonna have hopefully a little bit more of an input from Jordan next week for the soapbox discussion. I know he's not a big fan of this particular genre, c'est la vie.
Yep. So real quick, if you guys are anime fans, I don't cover every show that we cover here because some of the shows here aren't exactly advertiser friendly. So I use Weeb Warriors to kind of get that off my chest, or sometimes I just don't have room in my schedule to cover everything. But the shows that I do cover on my channel, Mr. J's Reviews, I review Vinland Saga, Magical Senpai, Dumbbell, and I feel like that's it.
And Fire Force. You review Fire Force.
Fire Force. Yeah, Fire Force and Dr. Stone as well. Yeah, those two. Yeah,
so
Fire Force, Dr. Stone, Danmachi. Fire Force, Dr. Stone, Danmachi, Dumbbell, and Magical Senpai. Those are the ones I review.
So if you want Jay's more squeaky clean YouTuber friendly reviews, you can
don't get me wrong, I still talk about titties.
So if you want to see a more controlled Jay, go to his channel, watch his reviews. They're great. As well as watching his more hair down, filled with nothing but degeneracy and other such nonsense here on Weeb Warriors.
Yep.
Because
Definitely.
My channel would be the den of just letting anime fans let their hair down, let their freak flags fly, so to speak, be open about the degeneracy as long as it's not illegal.
Yep. Yeah. Let's draw that line in the sand real quick, because there are some things we do not support.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. Or we get the random encounter from Alec that wants to show up and say words that I can't say.
But yeah, until next time, guys, we'll catch you later.
Later, folks.